Firestorm, man.
Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
All right, so we've spent the last 5 weeks completely caught up and distracted by The Mandalorian. And now the Rise of Skywalker has completely snuck up on us. That's right, we are 1 week, less than a week, away from the Rise of Skywalker. This is The Wars and More. I'm Joe, and of course with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey Doug, how you doing this week?
Doing great, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Dude, I didn't even realize we were this close.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I with as much Star Wars content as there is to consume right now, we've almost had our Star Wars needs satiated,
Yes.
without even realizing it. We're not chomping at the bit for this movie to come out because of things like The Mandalorian, and now it's here. It's like you said, less than a week away, and it's like, wow. All right, cool. Bring it on.
Yeah, and it's not like we haven't talked about it at all.
Right.
We've had little conversations about it, but it just never dawned on me that it was getting this close.
Right.
And here we are. Like, I unlike last week, we discussed tickets and things like that. You said you had yours, and I was like, I gotta get mine. Well, I have mine now.
Good.
So I'm ready to see it on Thursday when it releases.
Right.
And I honestly, I can't wait. I'm excited for seeing Star Wars in theaters. No matter, it's amazing. No matter what feelings you have about this film or that film, no matter what, when the next film comes out, you're always excited.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of it. You can have your ups and downs in this saga, and it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's okay. You're still ready for more.
Totally.
So, I mean, there's obviously a threshold that we may or may not reach someday, but
yeah.
For right now, we aren't there.
Right. This is the last one of the Skywalker saga, right? I think they kind of let us know that.
Yes.
I am excited to see what they do with that. Okay. For me, growing up as a kid with Luke Skywalker, it's a big deal. So I'm anxious to see how all this wraps up. I'm anxious a little bit. I'm excited. I really hope I walk out of this thing grinning ear to ear.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've been vocal about the things we dislike about The Last Jedi.
Yep.
But we've also been very vocal about what we do like.
Sure.
Which there are plenty of things we do like. There's plenty of things we don't like.
Right.
But one thing's undeniable, and if you listen to our first show after The Last Jedi released,
yep,
we were both confused.
Yes.
We left the theater not knowing what to think. It was a different feeling for us, compared to every Star Wars movie we've seen in theaters.
Right.
It was just different. It felt different. Something felt not really off, but just, it was kind of like, what the hell did I just watch? It was,
Right.
Was that really where Luke went? Was this, we had more questions than we had answers. And yeah, that's something we're looking to avoid this time. We're looking for closure.
Definitely.
It's the last film of the Skywalker saga. We need some closure.
For sure. If I don't know how to put this without sounding bad, but I mean, yeah, and I think JJ knows this, right? It's it's also something he's been like, him along with the cast have been out on the interview circuit, and he's been saying it a lot, right? Endings kind of freak him out. I don't know if you've been seeing that, but he's been saying that a lot.
Been saying it a lot too.
So, right. So he's well aware of, I guess what you would possibly call his shortcomings and
also the stakes.
And the stakes, exactly. He's well aware of that as well. And I think knowing that, he's talked about how much pressure he's felt. I have no reason to doubt that. And as far as I'm concerned, good, because as far as I'm concerned, he's got a big responsibility, in his hands, which, I don't want to come across as sounding like, you better get this right. But in some ways I'm thinking, well, you better get it right,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a way to say, hey, like this is it. This is one of those moments where you have to get it right. You can say that without being a jerk about it. Like, you got to get this right or else.
Right.
You can say that, like, this is the moment. If you're going to get it right, this is the time.
Yes.
Like, there is no time like now.
Exactly.
It's just, it's one of those things that to put a cap on something as big as this saga has been, there's a lot being put on JJ's shoulders here.
Yeah, for sure.
And I empathize with that he he's got the weight of 40 plus years.
Yeah.
On his shoulders.
Yep.
But one thing that's different with this portion of the saga that they didn't have in the beginning, or not saga, but this portion of the trilogy that they didn't have in the beginning is George has been willing to be involved.
Right.
So he's had that to lean on, and not to make George's movie. Don't take me wrong. Like, he's not out there to make George's movie.
Right.
But he's got that. This is where his head was at when he was writing this story, that portion of it.
Yeah.
So he's got that knowledge base at his disposal this time. That really wasn't there for The Force Awakens.
Exactly.
And even though that wasn't there during The Force Awakens, the one thing we can say about JJ is he echoed the
beats.
The beats of Star Wars.
Right.
Some would say a little too perfectly.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to say. Some say that was a detriment, but for me, I disagree. I think,
it was a good way to kick off. And I'll tell you what, I am friends with some of the most critical Star Wars fans.
Right.
Who think that this trilogy is just the worst thing to happen to Star Wars.
Right. Okay.
But even they say, look, The Force Awakens was A New Hope, 2.0. But, and they'll even say, but Disney had to kick off their Star Wars, and it made sense for them to echo what had been done in the past and to establish themselves in the familiar.
Exactly.
The problem is that they established themselves in the familiar and then went to left field.
Right.
So that's where it threw everyone for The Last Jedi. I think if they would have been a little crazier with The Force Awakens with their ideas, maybe The Last Jedi wouldn't have seemed as far-fetched. Maybe people would like it more altogether.
Maybe.
Because you establish yourself in this plane, and then you move away from that. You kind of set yourself up for that kind of criticism.
Yeah.
You can get that criticism in the beginning with the first one, and then continue that, and maybe start to bring people around if you just kind of go a little nuts to begin with.
Right. I think I don't know. For me, The Force Awakens felt very Star Wars, right?
Yes.
And The Last Jedi came around, and I think what was it kind of veered away from that feeling a little bit. I don't want to say it didn't seem like Star Wars. I mean, it had a lot of, I don't want to say all, it had all of those, it had a bunch of the Star Wars elements to it, right? It was very Star Wars, but it veered away from, this almost sounds bad, but it's really not. But it veered away from the Star Wars formula a little bit, Yeah. There is a recipe to it, and I'm not saying that these movies should be cookie cutter. That is not what I'm saying, but I'm saying there is something. Okay, take The Mandalorian for example. You watch that and you're like, oh yeah, that's Star Wars. It's something you can't really put your finger on, but it's a feeling, right? And
right.
it's that's a little bit of what I think was lacking in The Last Jedi. So
yeah, I mean, so like you say, going away from the formula, the base, the what makes it, like, you can't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to make spaghetti, and my first ingredient is going to be peanut butter.
Right.
Like there's a way to do everything. Like
yeah, exactly.
So it's not crazy to say it like that. There's a formula for things.
Right.
There's, spaghetti is made a certain way. It's what it is.
Yep.
So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we'll see later on during the week.
Oh, yeah.
The wait will be over.
Yes, it will.
Which, that being said, I will say, there's probably a good chance that we may not have a show released next weekend.
Right.
It may be a little bit into the week, something like that. We're, trying to organize some things to put together the best, show about the film as we can, and get some other people involved.
Right.
So we'll see. We say this, but we could end up coming out with a show on Friday or Saturday. We don't know, but it's looking like we may delay release a little bit just to get some other people on, things like that.
Right. Also, I think our thing also is we're not necessarily that concerned with being the first ones out with an episode after the film, but maybe we we check the film out a couple, 3 times before we come back and give you our thoughts on it.
And go big.
Exactly.
Let's not just slap something out there to get our first reaction or whatever. Maybe, and like I said, if it's that great, you might see that.
Right.
I mean, if we're that blown away, you might, yeah, like I said, you might hear from us Friday.
Right.
it's possible.
But I would definitely expect maybe a little bit longer wait, but a deeper dissection of what we've seen.
Yes. And like I said, hopefully some guests.
Right.
So, all right. So we've got to see some stuff over the last couple days.
Yes.
And one thing pretty big, and probably the most chat-worthy item for the Rise of Skywalker in a little bit.
Yes. So
It's been a minute since we've wanted to talk about something this much.
yeah. Well, this okay. I guess I'm just gonna play this. This is a bit of the latest TV spot for the Rise of Skywalker. I'll play it, and then we'll give thoughts.
At last, inside your head.
Oh,
So I'll just say it.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Yes.
That gave me chills the
Yes.
first time I heard it.
I know it. I know it.
And I mean, this isn't like bashing, the film so far, like, because we haven't seen the film,
Right.
but it's just the promotion for the film hasn't had that kind of like moment since the first trailer
Exactly.
when we heard Palpatine laugh at the end.
Yes. Exactly.
And I understand you can't do that with everyone because you're just going to give away the whole damn movie.
I get it, but man, I just want to throw it out there. I personally think the marketing for this film has been really lackluster. We had the first teaser trailer, the one you just mentioned, and now this TV spot. I think these are the two that actually make me a little giddy for this movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, it's like you reveal the movie and it's like, hey, the Emperor.
Right.
We got Palpatine. And then no Palpatine, no Palpatine, no Palpatine, no Palpatine. Or just little snippets of what we've already heard and seen. And I guess the one where the Rey one where he's like, it looks like Palpatine in like a chair or something floating down.
Right.
That was the next one that was any bit of something.
Yeah, I agree, but it was, and obviously you can't do this in trailers, right? In fact, they try and throw us off in trailers, but there's no context to it, so we don't really know what's going on. It's just kind of like a little crumb of, something from the movie. So I knew Palpatine was going to be there. Okay, I guess we get to see over his shoulder from behind, and that's it. It wasn't even that exciting. This right here gives us a little context. This is Palpatine saying, everything you thought you knew, it was all me.
Yeah, I've been pulling the strings on your miserable little life. Like,
oh, everything we saw, okay. God, I hate. All right, so we had questions after The Force Awakens, right? Kylo Ren talking to Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
Talking to the mask. Can't quote him right now, but whatever. Help me, grandfather, right? Whatever it is. Talk to me, grandfather. That wasn't Vader. And then Snoke. Palpatine's voice turns to Snoke's voice. So apparently, the context we're getting right now is that Palpatine was the puppet master for Snoke, which we speculated on, but it kind of makes more sense,
But look at the gravity of that alone. Like,
Yes.
if Palpatine's the one pulling the strings for Snoke all along.
Uh-huh.
So we watched The Last Jedi. Luke is outmaneuvered. Loses Kylo to this guy Snoke
Right.
that we know nothing about. This guy who later on in the movie gets killed so easy.
Yes. Through his own arrogance. Yes.
Through his own arrogance. Like, this guy is the guy who outmaneuvered Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
And then you find, so the gravity here is, well, that wasn't Snoke that outmaneuvered him. It was Palpatine.
Exactly.
So that adds a little more weight to that whole thing.
Right. Now,
Like, okay, now you can see that.
Now, this is what I almost brought this up to you before we started recording, and this is what I wanted to say. In my opinion, Luke, somehow, some way, needs to be the conduit for Kylo Ren, Ben, whoever, to go confront Palpatine. Because for this to, I don't want to, man, again, don't want to go down the road of, Last Jedi had it wrong, but for some of the things that were, in my mind, not right with Luke in The Last Jedi, that would go a long way to help with that. I'll say that. If Luke, the guy who said, "See you around, kid," actually comes back and communicates with Kylo Ren and says, "I now know why you went down the path you did. Here's why. Here's where he's at. You've got to go get rid of him."
Yeah,
because otherwise,
well, and the other thing is too is like if Luke comes to Kylo as a Force ghost, still trying to reach him, not even abandoning him, even at this point,
right,
could still be that path back for Kylo.
Yeah,
and not only that, but Luke crossing over into the Force. You've been manipulated by this guy. Here is your grandfather standing here with me.
Right. Yes. That's something that's been speculated a lot that people want to see. And I got, to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing it myself.
Well, now it makes more sense.
Yes.
Because you could imagine in some way, Palpatine's actually been able to suppress Anakin from actually reaching out.
That's possible.
Because he was able to cloud the minds of all these people.
Exactly. In
throughout.
The prequels. Yes.
So his ability to kind of cut someone off from that portion of the Force in order to be able to even speak to a Force ghost. Like you think about Obi-Wan with Luke, Palpatine probably didn't even realize that was happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if he was aware, he might have been able to manipulate that and cut that off. But then again, he's also had time to grow stronger.
Right.
So if he's even alive in a corporeal sense, or if he's, maybe he's still manipulating things from beyond, or his essence has taken over something else, and he's more of an in-betweener now. Not necessarily alive in the flesh.
Right. Yeah.
Like he may have a vessel that he uses in a physical realm, but maybe more of a, what's the word? Yeah, maybe more a part of the Force than he is anything.
Gotcha. However that plays out for me is less important than how Luke and possibly Anakin play into how Palpatine plays out, right? Because Luke and Anakin thought they had it licked back in episode 6, right? And here we are, having to deal with this guy again, right? Probably in a more powerful state. So I feel like they've got to play some sort of a role in this.
Yeah, but you remember way back, right? In the beginning, after the reveal that Palpatine was going to be involved, there was a lot of talk about Palpatine moving from one body to another and actually possessing Kylo Ren.
Yes.
After hearing that, I believe that more of a possibility than I ever have. Just because, like, would he be manipulating Ben just to have, Ben be the next Vader? I think that would be small potatoes for him at this point.
Yeah.
I think him looking to manipulate Ben because of that bloodline and his strength in the Force to be able to take him and be his new vessel, I think would be...
That makes sense. That's kind of like the next level.
Like the whole game was just to lure him to him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, allow him to grow in power, right? And
seduce him to the dark side to make it even easier for him.
Yes.
I don't know. The good news is we don't have that long to find out.
Exactly.
And yeah, I'm happy that this little bit we got, is re-sparking that energy.
Yeah, totally. This TV spot is the one that for 30 seconds, I forgot all about, what's going on with the Mandalorian, right? It was like, ooh, yeah, we got this coming. So,
because we've been watching the Mandalorian going, the rise of what?
Yeah, exactly. It's been kind of like that, Yeah. So,
which is a good problem to have.
It is. It's a good problem to have.
It really is.
But like, if I've always, I've always lived in the world of, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. Oh my God, I can't wait. Hurry, get here. So to have not been feeling that way up until this point, because I was going to play a comparison clip. I don't even think I'm going to bother now, but a lot of these TV spots have just been, I haven't really been feeling like they haven't been grabbing me, right? To where it's like, oh, because of that TV spot, I really got to go see this. Now, because of this last one here, yeah, I got to go see this movie. So,
yeah. And so, I mean, let me just put it in perspective for where I'm coming from. So for me right now, like to this moment, my favorite Star Wars in the Disney era is The Mandalorian as it stands.
Right.
Now, The Mandalorian is not finished, so that could change.
Right.
It really could.
Yep.
But as it stands, The Mandalorian is my favorite Star Wars of the Disney era. Before that, it was Rogue One.
Yeah.
So the saga films are removed from that almost entirely. And I think before Rogue One, it would be The Force Awakens.
Right.
So
I gotta agree with you here. It's yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
And then it's probably Rebels and Solo, like.
I mean, it's almost painful to say it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
but yes, I agree.
But my point there is that the potential is there. Because look at Rogue One. Okay, I'll use Rogue One for example. As far as Star Wars and stuff, that is Disney doing Star Wars right.
Yes.
and hitting on all them beats. Rogue One is a fantastic film,
Yes, it is.
and you would be hard pressed to talk to any Star Wars fan, new Star Wars fan, old Star Wars fan, and have them tell you that they don't like Rogue One.
Right.
I mean, my buddies I was talking about earlier that really don't like the sequel trilogy at all, like with a burning passion,
Right.
they love Rogue One.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was talking to one 2 weekends ago, and we got to talking about Star Wars, and I brought up Ahsoka.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, I love Ahsoka." I'm like, "You love Ahsoka?" Like, it kind of took me back.
Right.
Like, I couldn't believe it. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, that is a well written character. That is a character that when she came on the scene, I couldn't stand her.
Right.
He says, but after 6 seasons of the Clone Wars, I love that character. Love that character.
Heck yeah.
So I guess the point I'm making there with bringing up Ahsoka is it can start out rocky
Right.
and end beautifully.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think, I don't know. I don't think that the Force Awakens was necessarily rocky.
I agree.
I think we hit a little turbulence along the way, but but judging from this clip, I think they might be on the right track here a little bit. There are some things, like I said, from the other TV spots that okay, we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how it is in the context of the whole film. And if you're wondering where I'm getting at, I think I have concerns that they might be trying a little too hard with the trio dynamic of Poe, Finn, and Rey, right? Like they're all trying just a little bit too hard to relive what we had with Han, Luke, and Leia.
And that would be fine to push that if you let that happen in the middle.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
But yeah, exactly. Yes.
And that is one of the hangups I have of The Last Jedi. You've established this trio, but wait, we're not going to let Finn be part of the trio.
Right.
We're not going to let Poe even meet Rey until the end of the second act. This is your trio.
Yeah.
But they're not going to meet until the end of the second film?
Right.
Come on.
Yes, I agree. That has been a small gripe of mine.
Yeah.
Along the way.
Luke, Han, and Leia met at the end of the first act of the first film.
Right.
So,
yep.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of that stuff seems like it's a little forced that we saw in these TV spots.
Pun intended.
Aha. But I'm just hoping that as it plays out throughout the film, it doesn't seem as forced as it does in these trailers. And, it could very well go that way, which would be a great thing as far as I'm concerned. And then to have this ultimate evil of Sidious that we're getting this glimpse of, if some of what we talked about, my thing is Luke has got to play some sort of role in getting Kylo Ren to go face Sidious. Otherwise, what I don't know. I don't want to say it renders Luke's story useless, but it's almost like, isn't as important as.
Well, remember from that first trailer, or was it the first trailer? No, he was. I can't remember. One of the trailers. I think it was the first big trailer we got. Luke's line, confronting fear, is destiny of the Jedi.
Yes.
You know, I couldn't see him talking to Rey right there. Like, what amount of fear has Rey confronted?
Yeah. It hasn't been that much, actually.
The fearful one of this trilogy, and the one who has been teetering on the edge all along, is Kylo.
Right.
The Skywalker blood.
Yep.
You know, Rey could end up being of that lineage too. It could happen. We don't know.
Right.
But as far as we know, the Skywalker lineage has stopped with Kylo Ren at this point. And if it's going to end, the Skywalker saga is going to end, it may end with a heroic death from Kylo Ren.
Yeah. Yep.
Then there's no more Skywalkers.
Exactly.
And, you know, he's rising from the darkness of his past.
Yep.
Hence the Rise of Skywalker.
Which
I have spoken.
I just gotta say, I have not been a fan of that theory up until
neither have I.
Up until hearing this, I'm seeing a glimpse of how it could play out and play out well. So
agreed. I have been the most ridiculous supporter of Kylo cannot be redeemed.
Right.
He's got to be full baddie.
That's right.
And then we hear this, and I'm like, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We're less than 7 days away.
Yep.
So, the next time we talk, we will have our answers. Have something to add to the conversation? Or you just want to let us know how we're doing? Email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get in on the action. But if social media is a little more to your liking, @TheWarsAndMore on Twitter is always a good place to interact with us. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/TheWarsAndMore. And of course, your portal to this and everything else, The Wars and More, is thewarsandmore.com. All right, now back to that sweet, sweet distraction we've had. The Mandalorian, Chapter 5.
Yes. I gotta say, this was like going back home. This one, in some small ways here and there, blew me away. So, yeah,
for sure. This is like, you know, visiting your hometown after being gone for a while.
Right.
You know, and so I gotta say, you know, there is one thing I've griped about. I griped about it with The Force Awakens a little bit, is I don't like fan service for fan service sake.
Right.
But this show does have a lot of fan service.
Yeah.
But it's sprinkled in a fantastic way.
Right.
Like, it's just the icing on the cake, you know?
Yeah, it's not I don't know how you put it. It's not like we're gonna go hit all these places that you're familiar with just to make you feel good about it, and you know, not worry so much about the story.
Right.
Yeah. It's this has got excellent story. It is you know, with going back to Tatooine on top of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. For me, I was you know, bouncing around in my chair going, look. You know, yeah. When I first heard, you know, Mos Eisley Tower, I was like, oh no way. And yes.
Oh,
went to Mos
that's how you
Eisley.
reacted?
Oh, yeah.
You know how I reacted?
Huh.
It said, you got done with that dogfight, and here, this is Mos Eisley Tower. And I went, it's about freaking time.
Yeah, well, we all react in different ways, I guess.
Seriously. Let's be real for a second.
Okay.
Okay, in new Star Wars, we haven't been to familiar planets that much.
True.
Just haven't.
Right.
And I understand it's a big galaxy.
Right.
But you mean to tell me that the centers of a story that we've had for 40 years are just not relevant anymore?
Right.
I find that hard to believe. Like, okay, Tatooine is remote, right?
Sure.
So going back to Tatooine doesn't make a ton of sense. But how much have we been to Coruscant? How much have we been to, other planets in this galaxy that we've been seeing for the last 40 years?
Yeah. I don't know. Personally, I think this was a good move. Right? This is something that everyone expected. Everyone wanted to see it. I shouldn't say everyone. There are lots of people that wanted to see it. And the way they did it was awesome. So, I don't know.
They're and like you said, I'm sure there's plenty of fans that couldn't care less if they go to Tatooine.
Right.
Which is both fine and a shame.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, because you're absolutely right. It is fine, and it is a shame, because, like it or not, Tatooine, it's the first place we get to see Star Wars ever. So
right,
it'll always be that. So it is the jumping off point. It is the place that you can stop by every now and then, and
yeah, it's just like you it's just like if you were to move to a new city, right? And all you do is embrace the new part of your life, right?
Right.
This new experience you're having in a new place. But I feel you're doing yourself a disservice by moving to a new place but not embracing the history of that place.
Right.
There are plenty of places around the U.S. here where if you were to go there, there's tons of history that you could, indulge yourself in.
Yeah, sure. Totally.
And if you would just move there, say, oh, I'm going to move to, let's just pick, Boston.
Oh, God, yeah.
I moved to Boston. There's tons of new, right?
Yep.
You can just embrace the fact that you're living your life in a new city, a big city. But there's such a rich history in Boston that you could, immerse yourself in and learn about.
Absolutely.
And therefore gain a new appreciation for this new place you've gone to.
Yeah. Totally.
Sometimes to embrace the new, you have to also embrace the history.
Right.
And I think that's something that's been lacking a little bit in, the new Star Wars.
Exactly.
I'm perfectly fine with new places, new aliens, new everything, but just getting a touch of the old in with it would just be, like I said, the icing on the cake.
What this was the drive you take through your old neighborhood that you haven't lived in 10 years, right? And you're looking at everything and you're going, wow, there used to be a drugstore on that corner. Now it's something else. And, I used to play ball in that park over there. Now it's a condominium or,
right.
It was that sort of thing, because we got to see so much of what drew us in the prior films. So I don't
And
know.
they didn't have to bash us over the head with it with one of the characters saying, "Wow, we haven't seen anyone that looks like you since Boba Fett landed in the Sarlacc
Oh,
pit."
thank you. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
they didn't have to say that.
Right.
All they had to say was like, this is Mos Eisley Spaceport.
Right.
You know?
Yep. So, okay. Now we got that out
Yes.
off our chest here. I thought it was really cool. This thing had a cold open with our first dogfight for the Mandalorian. Pretty awesome.
This is one of those moments where I'm happy that it's a TV show.
Yep.
Because being a TV show, it kind of limits the budget a little bit.
Yeah.
And by
kinda.
limiting the budget,
yeah.
it gives us a very old, sci-fi movie feel.
Yeah, to some degree, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, this didn't look like cutting edge CGI space dogfighting.
Right.
This was
I get what you're saying.
space dogfighting done on a budget nowadays, and it looked not retro, but with a retro touch.
Right. It was okay, so you have the Mandalorian has another bounty hunter catch up with him, right? So you have two ships in space. Definitely the kind of thing you would see in old sci-fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what comes to mind when you start talking about this, Joe, is the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith, where there is a space battle on a massive scale going on. So I see the dichotomy of what you're talking about.
Yes. And the other thing I like about this is like the old, serial type TV shows.
Right?
There's absolutely no context for how he come across this other bounty hunter.
Right.
Anything like that. It's just happening.
Yeah, exactly. But we as the audience get to just put that together for ourselves because we've seen the one that Cara Dune takes care of, right?
In the previous episode.
Right. And
it ends with that, and they start up with this.
And it's like, okay, we get that story. We understand how this happens because it's going to keep happening, right? So that is genius for this show. I love that.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like, well, it also ties it to Star Wars in a masterful way because Star Wars, there's always stuff that happens in between your installments.
Yes.
There's time lapses.
Most of the time, yeah. Yes.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, but most of the
in
time,
the majority
there is, yes,
of Star Wars, there's a time lapse in between, one installment to the next.
Exactly.
So things happen.
Some things happened. We don't know exactly what that was, and we don't need to.
Yep. Nope. And it worked out beautifully.
Right.
It was a awesome open to the show.
Right.
You get thrust right into the action. I like it.
Yes. So when the Mando finally gets to land, the first thing we see pop up is this trio of pit droids. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. A throwback to episode 1. Love it. So.
And that's where I was going with the whole fan service thing too, is it's not only fan service to the original trilogy. We don't have to do 1977 Star Wars every time we do some fan service.
Exactly.
We can tip the cap to the prequels from time to time.
Yeah. Oh, they totally deserve it.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. I really like that.
Now, so I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit, right? So
I've had it.
there, Mando eventually finds himself going to the Mos Eisley Cantina, right? Which, when I saw him walking towards the exterior, I was just, I was falling over myself, in excitement. But he walks in, and this is what I was talking about driving through your old neighborhood, right? He walks in, and that machine at the doorway that excludes droids or sounds the alarm that there's droids is gone. And the bartender is a droid. It was like, wow. Things have changed in the Mos Eisley Cantina, that's for sure. So, which was awesome.
What's funny is that the patron going in has a distaste for droids.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Not the establishment, but the patron.
There's some irony there. Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then next, the dude, Toro.
Yep.
Most likely sitting in the exact same seat Han was sitting in when he blasted Greedo. Appeared that way to me.
It could be.
At least there was one shot that made it look that way from one camera angle, and it was like, wow. Pretty cool. During that whole sequence, I was just beside myself thinking, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is a trip down memory lane for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was completely fine with it. And I'm one of those people that I'm not a fan of fan service.
Right.
I've made this very well known.
Right.
And I was fine with this. Because, like I said, it was kind of just sprinkled in.
Yeah.
They didn't make it the focal point.
Right.
The story was the focal point.
Right.
What was going on was the focal point.
You said it earlier. They could have spelled it out in dialogue and stuff. And there was a couple things. There was references to, Beggar's Canyon and this and that. But they could have spelled it out in dialogue for us. And it's like, no, we know exactly where we're at, what we're doing, So it was good. So
yeah, it was as much as you would expect for your first trip back.
Right.
And like I said, they didn't beat us over the head with it. Which if they would have, I probably would have been upset.
Yeah, for sure. With as good as this show's been so far, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I would have said, okay, you had the third episode with this badass fight with Mandalorians.
Right.
And then you come and just slap me over the head with, in the Sarlacc pit over here, and let's take a tour of Tatooine. Like,
right.
Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? That would have pissed me off.
Exactly.
And they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But they threw just enough little tidbits in to go, yeah,
right.
We're home. We're back to where it started.
Yep.
Back to where it started, but it's new.
Totally. So, we were introduced to two new characters that one of them we've been anticipating. The other one, I was caught a little off guard by. And then, apparently these are, one-shot characters here. So.
Yeah, I gotta say, Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
I am very disappointed. Like this, if I'm disappointed about anything in this series so far, it is that.
Right.
I mean, okay, this character kneeling down at her body. I mean, maybe she's not dead.
maybe, but
she seemed pretty dead.
right.
I thought that was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
We were kind of led to believe that this character was going to play a larger role.
I think we at least thought as much because of, it's kind of like, announced that, this character is going to be on the show and, what the kind of the, I don't want to say background, but, the overview of the character is, right? So,
which if this was going to be a one-off character, I kind of would have liked to have seen a little more fight.
Right.
So it was disappointing because the character, I mean, the little bits that you see is an intriguing character.
Yeah, totally.
He says, if you go after her, you won't make it till the morning.
Right.
It's you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say I would have been skeptical if she was actually dead by the end of this, if it wasn't for the Mandalorian coming back on the dewback and finding her still laying there, right?
Still laying there, and then this mystery character,
right?
At the end, she's still laying there, same position,
right?
Like didn't move. Like, oh well, that hurt.
So if she's playing dead, she's doing a darn good job. That's for sure.
Yeah. And even for a gravely wounded character, like could live if tended to.
Right.
Zero movement in what seemed like a pretty large time gap.
Well, you're talking from sunrise till after dark.
To sunrise again. Because the sun was up, right? At the end?
Was it
that last character?
Maybe.
Or coming up?
Maybe it might have been coming up. So, yeah, you're talking then a full day. So,
yeah. A full day in the same spot.
Right.
Same position. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So,
like you're past the back to tank at that point.
Right. So in this we it's amazing. I gotta say, I feel like the Mandalorian relies on his armor a little bit too much.
Dude, you mentioned this last week, I think.
Yeah.
Because last week you're like, this is the first episode he didn't get shot.
Right. Well, he got shot 3 times in this one, so
yeah.
So
he's like, man, it's okay. The Beskar held up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Toro's like, wait, I'm not wearing Beskar. Mando.
No, you're not. I love that. That was
a good one. So, and then you mentioned to me earlier off air, you love the strategy they used to.
Oh,
attack.
That was masterful.
Yes.
Such a good scene. Such a good sequence. Charging on these speeder bikes, firing off these flare-like, what they call them?
Oh,
flash something.
Yeah, yeah.
Flash charges or something.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that, and it was one of those scenes where it really. She was just narrowly missing.
Right.
So there was a lot of suspense and almost kind of like pulls you to the edge of your seat.
Absolutely.
Like really well done.
Very fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
A good strategy and, shows the ingenuity of the Mandalorian. Right. And, that part of most finally shows the Mandalorian and Toro kind of working as a team, right?
Yep.
Between that and the hand-to-hand combat, right? Then what we have is the Mandalorian's quote unquote new partner there for the day hears about the child and what the child could be worth and turns on him, without thinking twice. And I think that's going to be, I think we're getting set up for that sort of thing to be kind of like the new normal for the Mandalorian, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he can't trust anybody.
Right.
He just absolutely cannot put his trust in anybody, even though, and I think this will be one of those moments where he realizes that, because he kind of put his trust in this character.
Right.
Even though he reluctantly did in the beginning, but
Yep.
in the heat of everything, he ended up trusting it.
Yep.
And so, two things I want to bring up, and this episode just had so much of these little things that we keep getting distracted by them.
Uh-huh.
But what do you think of the do-back? I mean, to me, it looked like they exactly mimicked it from the special editions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't look that much more detailed.
Okay.
Like the way it moved, like when you saw the stormtroopers on the do-backs in the special edition for episode 4.
Right.
It moved that same way.
Okay, well, I mean...
That kind of a wobble, like,
yep. It's kind of an established thing then.
Yeah. They kept with that. They didn't update anything there.
Which
kind of dug that.
Yeah, I was going to say, in my mind, that's kind of a good thing,
Because they could totally make this thing move, faster.
Yeah.
Like they could make it into a more realistic mode of transportation.
Right.
But I think the not to get too sci-fi-y, but I think the thing that would be appealing about a do-back would be its endurance, not its speed.
Exactly.
So it would just be able to keep moving.
Yep. And the fact that you're not having to walk, would be a huge benefit.
Yeah. It could just keep moving, doesn't have to stop for breaks. You don't have to water it,
Right.
It's a desert creature. It can handle this.
Yep.
It'd be like using a camel in the desert as opposed to a horse.
Right.
A horse would be a lot faster.
Yep.
But a camel's acclimated to the desert, just better suited for it.
Right.
A horse you'd have to stop and water 5 times to a camel's 1.
Right.
So, yeah, I dug that.
Yeah, totally.
And then I got to bring up too the Tusken Raiders.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What'd you think of the sign language? Like,
that was interesting. That was new, and so from that alone, we have to assume that the Mandalorian has been to Tatooine before and kind of knows how things work there, right?
Well, I think as a accomplished hunter, you would have to know how to deal with locals.
Yeah.
You don't want to fight everyone you come across. You want to be able to get passage to go deal with your quarry.
Right.
So, yeah, I thought that was well done. And I like that they didn't... All we've seen from Tusken Raiders is this, like, grunting, kind of shouting, ruh, ruh, ruh.
Right.
No vocalization.
Right.
So they didn't mess with that. And just like, oh, here's some off-worlders. Oh, I guess we'll just speak basic.
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't make that a language because that didn't seem like a discernible language.
Exactly.
And you saw them like point in the past, like when they were, communicating with each other, they would point at something, things like that. Tap them on the shoulder, like wave their hand. No, don't shoot right now.
Wow. I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
They had a lot, like their communication between each other was always with hands.
Yeah.
And there was never any sign language per se,
Right.
but it was visual with their hands, like pointing and, you know, tapping on the shoulder, like, and then waving their hand, don't do it, you know.
Interesting.
So they took that and ran with it and made this sign language to communicate with them. And I thought that was really, really well done.
I totally agree. I thought the sign language thing was cool, but I did take that to mean that the Mandalorian had been there before and
Agreed.
understood, you know, the customs of the locals, like you said. And it was a nice point that he made too about how, you know, Toro says, yeah, I was talking to some of the locals, and Mando's like, yeah, the Sand people kind of consider themselves the locals, you know.
Everyone else is a trespasser.
Right. Kind of a neat, different take on it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're the natives.
Yeah.
Everyone else is a newcomer, an immigrant.
Absolutely.
Taking their land.
So, I think we should probably hit on the thing that everybody's speculating about.
Okay. You want to do that?
Yeah, I guess we should.
Okay. It's not Boba Fett.
Right. Yes, it's not Boba Fett. Yay. Okay, good. We agree on that.
I've gotten so many text messages.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, no. And you brought up something to me earlier today, off mic.
Right.
Obviously. And it was the first thing that popped in my head. Boba Fett doesn't wear a full-length cape.
Exactly.
That was a full-length cape.
Yep.
Not saying he couldn't change his wardrobe, but
Sure.
if he changes his wardrobe, why the hell even bring him back?
Right.
I mean, I'm of the opinion Boba Fett being brought into this series would be detrimental to the series.
I couldn't agree more. This thing is going so well so far. Yeah, I don't even want to see that.
It would overshadow our character.
Yes.
We are watching this show to invest in this character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to look for Boba Fett.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
That right there would be the ultimate pandering fan service that you were talking about before. That's exactly what that would be.
Piss me off.
Yes, exactly.
But like, okay, I am with everyone back before this. Okay, I've always liked the character of Boba Fett because he looked cool.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to tell you right now, that's where it stopped for me.
Right.
He looked cool. That's it. He died like a punk.
Yeah. That he did.
I mean, and you know, you're talking to a guy right now. I have a Boba Fett wallet.
Right.
I have a Boba Fett, you know, wall hanging. I have a Boba Fett Black Series up on there. I have a bunch of Boba Fett crap.
Yep.
I like Boba Fett. He looks cool. But that's where my fascination stops.
Yeah.
I'm not fascinated because this character has a lot of depth. That it's super intriguing. He's not. He died like a punk.
Right.
Even if he survived this, he went in like a punk.
Yeah. I think personally, all of the stories that could be tapped into for Boba Fett are pre-episode 5.
Yeah.
I think that's where
that's
they
the
need
play
to go. Yeah. For Boba Fett, yes.
I mean, if they were able to make him survive the Sarlacc pit and bring him back in another way in its own setting, fine. But don't invest me in another character to overtake that character with some character of some certain fan allure.
Right.
Don't do that to me.
Yeah.
That's just my take.
Okay, so talking about fan allure, I did see online some other thoughts of who that might have been at the end, walking up to Fennec Shan. I heard some people saying, "Ooh, that might be a long trench coat, not a cape. So maybe it's Cad Bane."
Okay.
And I'm going to say no, but
I'm going to say no because it didn't look like a trench coat.
yeah, Cad Bane wears this duster type thing.
Yeah.
And it's split up the middle of the back for basically what you would think of as riding horses and stuff. So,
now this looked
this
more
wasn't.
like our character, the Mandalorian's trench coat or cape.
to a degree,
This was more similar to his.
more similar to, but Mando's is kind of beat up, tattered. This one looked in better shape.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we're going down the speculation path. First off, let me address the Cad Bane thing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool because Cad Bane's always been a supporting character. This is not a character that's going to overtake the series if they brought him in,
Right.
because he's always kind of been a background character.
Right.
I mean, Boba Fett was too. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Really.
People would disagree with me, but he was a background character. But Boba Fett has had a certain history that just, I don't want to see that brought in because it's a history of, how do I put this? It would be a fan service moment, period.
Yeah. Totally.
Cad Bane, on the other hand, wouldn't necessarily be a fan service moment. He'd be still acting bounty hunter. You know, it would make sense.
Right.
But at the same time, I'd rather see this be a new character. Someone that hasn't been revealed to us yet.
Right.
Or I'd like to see it be an existing character. Maybe a new attire.
Okay.
What's Carl Weathers' character's name?
Grief Karga.
Grief Karga. I would be okay with this being Grief Karga.
So would I.
He's on the trail now.
Right.
He's now put on attire more suited to being out in the field. It doesn't have to be Mandalorian armor that we're seeing right there.
Yeah.
It could just be, I mean, that looks similar to something someone might wear during the Clone Wars.
Right. I don't necessarily think it is Mandalorian armor, but so since we're going down this road, I think
Which we'll have to wrap up soon. Just
yes.
Yeah.
Using the out of universe logic, right? We have 3 episodes left now, and we have yet to be introduced to Giancarlo Esposito's character, who I believe his name is going to be Moff Gideon, I think.
Yep, I think that's right.
And I just have the impression that's going to be him because we still have to be introduced, and I believe there's going to be some sort of conflict and cliffhanger for the season. So it only makes sense to me that that's who we see at the end of this thing.
So one more thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you're saying there makes the most sense. But what if this is a character hit we're never going to see? What if this was just a thing?
Some sort of red herring? I mean, just to make us wonder?
Yeah. And what if this is, say there's a character in the Aftermath books called, it's the sheriff something.
Oh. Cobb Vanth.
Yeah. Wore Mandalorian armor.
Right. That he found near a Sarlacc pit.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
because-
And this would be the most atrocious to me because those books were trash.
Agreed. But it would really be no different than Boba Fett himself.
Yes.
So what would be the point there? I mean, you know.
I mean, it would be to establish a character from the novels in the live action canon. Period.
I think they need to be more
Show specific,
judicious with their time that they have for characters and things like that. It's in my opinion, it's got to be this Moff character. So
this is someone who's on his trail.
Yeah.
And we may not see till the last episode of this season.
Or right.
You know, and we'll see another moment like this where someone walks up behind the carnage.
Possibly.
And it's just leading up to that character who's going to be the baddie for season 2.
Right. Could be. And you know, I think this character is also going to have some larger purpose in regards to the child and what is intended for the child.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing with this whole Boba Fett theory. Like, what significance does Boba Fett hold for this story?
Right. It's simply the same planet.
Yeah. There's no significance there.
Right.
I mean, is Boba Fett still loyal to this guild? Was he a member of this guild? Is that where they're going with it?
I don't know. I mean,
but that's a storyline that you can't establish midway through a season and start running with.
Right.
That just won't feel right.
Exactly. And if Boba Fett were alive, it makes no sense for him to still be on Tatooine. I mean, unless he's chasing after the child. But again, like you said, is he part of the guild? Boba Fett didn't seem like a guild member to me, right?
No, he seemed kind of like he has his own crew, and that's that.
Exactly.
I mean, he could have been a guild member. I mean, that's whatever.
Maybe. I don't know.
Neither here nor there. To me, I mean, if Boba Fett were alive and still active, there is no reason why a character of that alleged magnitude,
right,
would be hidden to this point. You know, why would our character, the Mandalorian, be the go-to bounty hunter?
Right.
If a character like Boba Fett was still alive.
Well, okay. If someone like Boba Fett was still around and he was bounty hunting and all that kind of stuff, so many people wouldn't say, Mandalorian. Don't see too many of them around.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
except the guy in the green armor.
Right.
With the red accents.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's not Boba Fett.
It's not Boba Fett. I think it's Moff Gideon.
I think you're onto something there.
We will find out soon.
Yes. And with that, well, I guess before I say that, we will mention too. So we mentioned the Rise of Skywalker, less than a week away. Well, they are live streaming the red carpet event on StarWars.com at 5:30 Pacific time on Monday the 16th. Might as well tune in, right?
Absolutely. There'll be interviews with cast members, things like that, and all the typical red carpet shenanigans that go on. So should be a good time.
Yeah, and it should be a little above and beyond the typical because this is it.
You would think.
Right?
You would think, absolutely.
This should be a real shindig.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll be watching.
Absolutely.
You can always email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. It's the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on social media, though. We're at The Wars and More on Twitter, facebook.com/thewarsandmore. You can find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewarsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
Nope, that about covers it.
All right. We will talk next week.